Good day, everybody, and what's up? Welcome to the podcast for Selfless Sex and She Comes First. I am Dr. Nick Myers. Today is April the 12th, 2022, and I hope everyone out there is having a great day and being safe. And I have to say thank you so much for all of the listens last week. It was my biggest week ever of all time, so thank you to everyone out there. And I would like to say thank you especially to my growing international audience. So I have to say hello to everyone in Britain. I would like to say hello to everyone in India. And finally, I would also like to say hello to everyone in West Africa. So thank you for listening, and I hope you like today's podcast because it's going to be a little bit different than the norm. In today's podcast, I want to talk about dating in 2022. And my first question is, what the hell is going on out there? Things done changed, things is crazy. I don't know what's going on. It seems like people have these crazy checklists now, and then on the flip side, there are a percentage of people who are just checking out. So I asked the question one more time, what the hell is going on out there? So let's talk about that today. So to get this podcast started, I want to talk about people's checklist. And what I mean by a checklist is simply a list of requirements that are needed for you to go out with a person or in order for you to see the person again. Okay? So a survey was done back in 2014 and it was published in a book called Marry Me by Lori Gottlieb. And at the time, it kind of generated like a lot of buzz because it's pretty interesting. And for the men's list is as follows. She has to be warm and kind. Number 2, she has to be attractive enough. And number 3, she has to be interesting enough to talk to. So there are 3 things right there on the men's list. So now let's go to the ladies' list. So here are the women's requirements just to go on a second date. They are as follows. He has to be attractive, honest, intelligent, kind, funny, financially stable, and into me. That makes a lot of sense. Loyal, family-oriented, sexy, generous, interesting, confident, punctual, fit, chivalrous, charming, ambitious, tall, and creative. Plus 283 other items that were also on that list for a grand total of 300 just to go on a second date. So in order to figure out what was going on with these crazy lists, Dr. Gottlieb actually sat down with some of these women and tried to figure out what was going on. So she posed a question to them this way. She said, if a guy met 8 out of 10 things on your checklist, would you give him a second date? And the vast majority of women said no. So she asked why, and the women pretty much gave 2 reasons. Number 1, they didn't want to settle. They did not want to settle. And number 2, they had the hope that some other guy who was better would come along in the near future. So if you go back to my podcast I did a few weeks ago on the husband store, where the women were never satisfied with the partner that they had, and they were actually out there looking for someone better, and they were holding out hope for someone better, that goes directly back to the husband store, and it's prefaced as a joke. But now I'm actually starting to wonder if it is a joke. So for the women who won't give a guy who has 8 out of 10 things on their list a second date, I have a bit of advice for you, because here's the way this thing could play out for you in life. Number 1, if you're trying to hold out for a guy who meets 9 out of 10 things, or you get lucky and get that perfect guy who gets 10 out of 10 things on your checklist, he may never come along, ever. Or number two, this guy actually does come along and he shows up, but he's not into you that way. And number three, he shows up and he's into you and things work out. So that's kind of like the only three options you have out there. So with that said, I want to say, please be careful. And really quickly, I have got to mention this as well. I've never heard of this before, but it's something called the 666 rule. And apparently there is a percentage of women out there who follow this logic. And basically, it's a new set of requirements men need to meet in order to be successful in the dating pool. And it goes like this. Men have to be 6 feet tall. The guy has to have a 6-inch penis. And he also has to have a 6-figure salary. So ladies, I can tell you right now, in the United States, only 15% of men are 6 feet tall or above. Only 15%. So if you add in those other two requirements, that percentage gets smaller very, very quickly. So once again, I want to say, be careful. And for the guys out there, I have to say many men are starting to check out, which seems to go along with the women's long and ever-changing checklist. And this is an online movement, something in the manosphere, called Men Going Their Own Way, or the MGTOW or MGTOW movement. I'm really not sure how to pronounce it, but I think one of those is correct. And basically, it's a heterosexual white middle class movement which is pretty much based in North America and in Europe. And additionally, it kind of got adopted into the alt-right movement. So just to keep things fair, I'm not going to put any of my own words into this. I'm going to read directly what their ideology is from the Wikipedia page. So as I read this ideology, I want you to listen for something that I happened to mention earlier about women settling and the husband store. So here we go. At the center of MGTOW ideology is a notion of male separatism and the belief that society has been corrupted by feminism. MGTOW groups are misogynistic and anti-feminist, believing that feminism has made women dangerous to men and that male self-preservation requires disassociating completely from women. They believe that there is systemic gynocentric bias towards men, including double standards in gender roles and bias against men in family courts. MGTOW groups share a belief common among other manosphere groups that women follow a similar pattern in dating and marriage. Young and attractive women are promiscuous and engage in hypergamy, having sex with numerous men and abandoning a man if a higher value man shows interest. They believe women gravitate towards alpha men who are attractive but mistreat them, and that this solidifies their beliefs in feminism. As the women begin to age, the MGTOW ideology explains that they choose to settle down with beta males who provide for them financially, but to whom they deny sex, sometimes choosing to have sex with an attractive man outside of their marriage. The ideology holds that women will divorce their husbands and that the courts will favor the women in divorce proceedings due to what they describe as female privilege. So in my opinion, it seems like there is a lot of pain out there right now, and everyone is in a sort of protective stance where, like for the women, if they keep creating these long lists and change them from time to time, they'll never find anyone to date because no one will meet their impossible standards. Even if a guy has 8 out of 10 things, they will still reject him. I get it, or not really. And for the men who are not even in the dating pool anymore, it's like, if I reject the ladies first, then they can't reject me when I ask them out on a date. And fellas, I understand some of the things that you're saying because I've seen certain things with my own eyes where the court system will totally destroy a guy because his ex-wife wanted to get divorced, and now he had a good life while he was married, and she wanted to get divorced, and the divorce happened. Now he's paying all this alimony, and he also has to fight to see his kids, which makes absolutely no sense at all. But that's just the situation where we are right now. So I get it. No one wants to go through that. You don't want to go through that. Why would you? I get it. But who's going to blink first? Because it seems like everyone's in so much pain right now. Everyone's eyes are filling up with tears, and no one can see what the fuck we're doing in the first place. You get it? So something just has to happen. So in closing, I just want to say this, and I'm going to start with the women. And I can pretty much guarantee you, because of your extremely long checklist and your standards that only 0.05% of the men in the United States can meet, you are missing out on some amazing men. And I get it. You can keep your standards. You can hang out with your lady friends from time to time and do girls' trips and things like that. But I guarantee you, you'd rather be up under a man from time to time. And I guarantee you also, that guy who is 8 out of 10 would treat you like gold. True or false, right? And then for the fellas out there, I say instead of being a 6'6" guy, you can be a 5'7" guy and then have plenty of options. Now, if someone out there already took 5'6", I don't know about it, but because I just made it up like an hour ago. But check this out. Become that 5'7" guy. You can be a 5 foot tall guy with a 6-inch penis with a 7-figure bank account. And I guarantee you right now, you probably have a $10 million business idea in the back of your head just sitting there. So this is what you do. You turn off the Xbox, you turn off the PlayStation, you stop playing Dark Souls, even though it's a really great game. I play it all the time myself. Develop a business plan. Get on your grind. Because once that 7-figure salary shows up, guess what? You're going to have options. Instead of you chasing them, all those women are going to be chasing you. Now, I didn't say you had to marry them, and you can keep some of your same beliefs about the court system and feminism or whatever, but don't give up hope. But I'm telling you, man to man, get on your grind, get your business started, get it. Be that CEO with that nice corner office with that nice fancy car. That's what I'm talking about. Get your bank account in order. And then watch what happens. The 5, 6, 7 rule, don't forget that. So on that note, I'm out. Have a great day. Stay tuned, and I'll talk to you soon.